Hey everybody, you're watching A Physio Named Jonah. That's this guy. Today we're sad for Saquon Barkley. If you haven't seen it already, Saquon Barkley injured his ankle in Week 5 of the NFL against the Dallas Cowboys. This came not too long after he was just getting back to full speed following ACL surgery after having a high ankle sprain the year before. It's been a rough go for Saquon. Given the way that he injured his ankle and the type of injury it was, I thought it would be a helpful example to look at in terms of an ankle sprain. This is a fairly common injury that many of us go through at some points in our lives. In today's video, we'll tackle what gets damaged when we sprain our ankle, how these injuries happen, as well as what the recovery looks like afterwards. So tape up those ankles. You don't have to. Let's talk ankle sprains. I know anatomy sounds boring, but my goal here is to make it easier to understand what actually gets damaged when we sprain our ankle. When we sprain a part of our body, what we're doing is overstretching the ligament that's there. Ligaments connect bones to bones. Essentially, they try and hold everything in its right place. When ligaments get stretched really hard, the fibers that are holding the bones together can get torn. This is what the sprain itself is. Tearing of ligament fibers because of overstretching. There are a lot of different ligaments in the ankle, so I'm going to oversimplify them into a few groups. We have ones that sit on the middle or medial side of the ankle, the ones that sit on the outside or lateral side of the ankle, a bunch of little ones holding the bones of the foot together, and then ones connecting the bones of the shin together. Let's take out a couple of those groups that we're not worried about with Saquon Barkley's injury or a traditional ankle sprain. Ligaments of the foot are not usually damaged in an injury like this. This is more common in a Lisfranc injury. Ligaments that hold the bones of the shin together also aren't traditionally damaged in this traditional ankle sprain. That would be a high ankle sprain if you were to tear those ligaments. If you're interested in learning more about injuries to those areas, the Lisfranc injuries or the high ankle sprains, I've done videos on those and I'll attach those in the cards over here. For right now though, let's get into the Saquon specifics and the lower or more traditional ankle sprain.
And out of the reach of Saquon Barkley, oh no. What happened, oh, he stepped on the left foot of Jordan.
Okay, so first off, nothing about this looks comfortable. This is the usual position that someone's foot ends up in when they sprain their ankle. The foot rolls towards the middle of the body and their body weight lands on their ankle with the foot rolled in. This position of the foot is called inversion. The foot rolls in. Inversion. In rehab, we often refer to this type of injury as an inversion ankle sprain, so we know what position the foot was in when the ankle sprain happens. This puts a lot of stress on the ligaments on the outside or lateral side of the ankle. These are the ligaments that are most commonly injured in an inversion ankle sprain. Of the three ligaments that sit on the outside of the ankle, the ATFL is the most commonly injured. If you want to know more about this ligament or why it's the most often injured, let me know in the comments and I can look at that for a future more in-depth video. With an ankle injury like this, if it's severe enough, we can often break bones or have fractures that occur at the same time. Luckily so far, Saquon's x-rays were negative, which is a good thing, so we don't have to factor any fractures into his recovery timeline. Speaking of recovery, okay, I should probably work on making those transitions feel a little less scripted. I don't want these videos to come across as like too polished or anything like that. Yeah, cut to the next one. Immediately after an ankle sprain, one of the first things we have to worry about is the swelling or inflammation that's going to happen there. You could hear them talking on the broadcast about how Saquon's ankle was ballooning up or getting really swollen. This is pretty common after a severe ankle sprain. The swelling or ballooning is inflammation, which is fluid buildup happening around the structure that was damaged. We can also get some pretty severe bruising if blood vessels were also ruptured at the same time the ligament fibers were torn. Managing this swelling and pain, we often use RICE principles. No, not that kind of rice, silly. This kind of rice. RICE stands for rest, ice, compression, and elevation. Rest, I mean, it's pretty obvious. You don't want to put too much weight on the foot or do too much with it because it's in pain and it's swollen. If you saw on the broadcast, they had Saquon back out in a boot and crutches so he could move around without putting more stress onto the ankle. The ankle itself is resting. Ice, although some people aren't too fond of it, can be helpful in reducing the pain and increased swelling that happens after an injury. Cold can be something that reduces the blood flow to an area, which can hopefully prevent the buildup of swelling. Again, the ice is also just nice for pain that happens around the ankle. Compression, often in the form of a tensor bandage or wrap, is used to reduce the area of the ankle that the swelling can accumulate in. The hope is that if it doesn't accumulate as much swelling, it's easier to get that swelling moving out of the ankle. Elevation, aka putting your feet up after a hard day on the job. The idea here is that by elevating the ankle, you reduce gravity's effect of pooling swelling in the ankle. I consider this one fairly similar to rest from a practical standpoint. As pain and swelling start to decrease, we'll start to increase our weight-bearing activity or return to sport. This is often very pain limited. The goal here is to reintroduce activity without overstressing the ligaments or causing more inflammation. This is often why you'll see players taping the ankle or wearing a brace around it to help prevent that stretching of the ligament fibers. Retraining the balance on this ankle is also very important, so again, we don't overstretch the fibers as we get moving again. Normally this injury will heal within a few weeks, 2 to 4 being a reasonable timeline, but in severe cases it can take months for a full recovery, just depending on the grade of the sprain, as well as if anything else was damaged. Finishing up at the end, even though I am a Cowboys fan, I wish Saquon a smooth and speedy recovery. It's never easy as an athlete to be limited by injuries, and Saquon has had more than his fair share over the past few years. Football is best when the best players are on the field, so I hope he's feeling better and back out there very soon. Why did I do that? If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the thumbs up button below or subscribing to the channel so you don't miss when I release new videos. You can also check out some of those other videos that I linked in the cards or at the end card, whatever, and that also helps support my channel. Most importantly though guys, as always, move your body, have a laugh today, and I will see you at the next video.